I'm pretty sure you'll agree with me when I say this, and that is that the woman you choose to marry is one of the most important decisions that you can make in your life. And the reason why that is that the woman you choose to marry can have a tremendous impact on the trajectory of your life. And in my opinion, of course, you don't get married for love because love comes and goes. You get married because it sets a very good example for your children. And studies have shown that children raised in two parent homes where biological mum and biological dad are together tend to do better in life. So let's talk about the things you need to look for in a woman when it comes to long term relationships. If you want healthy children, a very good place to start is with her genes because essentially, when you have a child, it is basically a mix of you and her. But here's the thing, you need to be very, very realistic here because what you'll tend to find is that women who are considered consensually attractive tend to exercise, tend to eat well, and tend to avoid bad habits. So, to put it another way, if you want to attract a good looking woman, you yourself really need to be exercising, need to be eating well, and avoiding bad habits yourself. If you're somebody who drinks and smokes and doesn't look after yourself, it's unrealistic for you to expect to attract a quote unquote high quality woman. There's a lot of truth to the saying that you attract who you are. And another thing worth mentioning with regards to genes is intelligence. Let's say, for example purposes, you want a smart child. Well, it is probably in your best interest to get a woman who is smart herself pregnant because things like this can be passed down. And when I say smarts, I'm not just talking about book smarts, but also street smarts as well, because that is just as important. Because what children tend to do is copy their parents. So if somebody, let's say for example purposes, doesn't possess much common sense, then there's a high likelihood that that child will be the exact same. Right, so you've looked at her genes. Now, the next thing you want to be looking at is her background, because what you'll tend to find is that like attracts like. So, for example purposes, people tend to date and marry other people from the same racial background as themselves. The same also applies to religion, and the same thing also applies to social class. And the reason why this happens is relatability. What people tend to do when looking for a partner is they tend to look for somebody who are similar to themselves. And let's use Jeff Bezos and his ex-wife, Mackenzie Scott. When they got divorced, she became one of the richest women in the world. But guess who she got with next? She got with a science teacher. So she's gone from being with one of the richest men in the world to then being with a science teacher. And obviously, I couldn't give you the exact reason as to why she got with this guy because I haven't spoken to her personally. However, I can speculate. And through my own research, what I've found is that the science teacher was teaching her children. So my guess is that her children probably liked him. Hence the similarity. So you might be thinking to yourself, well, what about interracial couples? Well, there's probably a similarity somewhere down the line. So, for example purposes, they might have gone to the same school. They might have grown up in the same area. They might have met at work, which probably means that their social class background is very similar. Like tends to attract like. It might sound like I'm going to actually contradict myself here because what I'm going to say with regards to personality is that you don't want a female version of you. You want somebody whose personality is complementary to yours. So, for example purposes, let's say you're somebody with a strong and dominant personality. Well, you probably want somebody who's nurturing and submissive. If both of you are strong and dominant, you're just both gonna clash. Another good example of this is that you could have a guy who's extremely left-brained, meaning he's more on the logical side. He would probably be better off getting with a woman who's more right-brained, who's more emotional. That way, they balance each other out. And ultimately, this comes down to self awareness. It's knowing who you are, it's knowing how you operate, it's knowing what you want out of life. Honestly, when I was younger, I used to laugh at older people that would say things along the lines of that life starts at 40. I'd always think to myself, well, you would say that. But the older I get, the more I realize this to be actually true. Because when you're 19, 20, 21, you haven't got a clue who you are. And if you don't know who you are, quite frankly, you shouldn't be getting married. When it comes to marriage, generally speaking, you have two camps. Some people will tell you that it's better to get married early and get it out the way, while others will tell you that it's better to get married later when you're a little bit more mature. And I'm in the second camp that it's better to get married later. And the first reason why is that your brain doesn't really mature until around the age of 25. So, in my opinion, of course, getting married before the age of 25 is just foolish. The second reason is pregnancy, because women's prime time years with regards to getting pregnant is between 20 and 35. After the age of 35, it becomes more difficult for a woman to get pregnant. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's more difficult, generally speaking. So if you're screening for a wife, I would say that around the ages of 27, 28, 29 is a good age. And the reason why is one, she's still got a few years left in her with regards to getting pregnant. And number two, she's got some life experience under her belt. Because let's be honest, at 20 years old, you're still a kid. I'm going to ask you a simple question. What do you want out of life? Like, seriously, what do you want? Do you know the answer to that question? Because if you don't, you shouldn't be getting married. And sometimes the best way to explain something is to use an example. So let's do that. Right. So let's say, for example purposes, we have a guy called Dave. And Dave is somebody who's more on the artistic side. His goal is basically to write a few novels, make money off them novels, and when he's 50, he then wants to move to Thailand. He basically wants a very simple life, nothing super luxurious. But the problem is, Dave is married to Sarah, and Sarah wants to climb the corporate ladder. She wants to earn big money because she has a high consumption lifestyle. She likes shopping. She likes going on luxurious holidays. Can you see how this can be a problem in the long run? Because they've both got completely different life goals. He wants a simple life where she wants to climb the corporate ladder and spend loads of money. So the moral of the story is before a woman becomes a permanent fixture in your life, you must be crystal clear on what you want out of life. You must have a understanding of who you are, and this comes down to self-awareness. So let's just get to the point on this one, and that is sex is super important. And if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, sex is a physiological need. Just to put that into perspective, that is in the same category as food, sleep, water, and shelter. So I'm pretty sure you'll agree with me when I say this, and that is sex is super important with regards to maintaining a relationship. So a very good question to ask yourself is, do your sex drives align? And you should have a rough idea at around the 6-month mark of a relationship. Because if they don't, this can be very problematic in the future.